Hola y buenos días or buenas tardes, Year 7. Nice to see you again. Welcome to Lesson 3, our final lesson of Week 2 on the topic of ¿Qué hora es? What's the time? Empezamos. So, por favor, escribir el título, ¿qué hora es? Subrayar con una regla. Also write the date, la fecha en español, subrayar con una regla. Whilst you're doing that, I will read you the lesson aims for this week. So we have understood how to give time and learn, well, we have learned previously the present tense of the verb ir. We're going to revise that a little bit today. We'll apply all of the vocabulary for the week in a writing task, and we'll evaluate and set targets on how we can improve further. Okay, empezamos entonces. So your starter task for today is to recall the learning we did in our last lesson when we're talking about time in the sense of at such and such a time rather than saying it is such and such a time. So I would like you to match up the times that you can see there. There are 5. I'd like you to write the English and the Spanish in your books. There's an extension task for how do you say I eat an apple at 10:30 a.m. Okay, so give yourself pause this video and give yourself about 3 minutes to do that task. Muy bien. Let's see how you got on with that. So we have at 3:10 a.m., a las 3:10 de la madrugada, at 4:05 p.m., a las 4:05 de la tarde, at 11:30 a.m., a las 11:30 de la mañana, at 2:15 p.m., a las 2:15 de la tarde, and at 8:30, a las 8:30 de la mañana. Okay, so give yourself a mark out of 5 for that. And your extension task, how do you say I eat an apple at 10:30, is como una manzana a las 10:30. That might be for break time, something like that. Okay, let's continue. So in today's task, in today's class, our tasks are, we're going to just revise and make sure we're really, really clear on how to ask time questions. We're going to revise and look at the verb ir, meaning to go, and then we'll practice using ir and time expressions with writing. We'll also practice using other verbs and time with writing as well. That will make much more sense when we come to do it. And we'll end with our plenary when we'll set some targets. Okay, empezamos entonces. So how to ask time questions. We know how to ask what time is it. We've been doing that a lot over the course of this week. ¿Qué hora es? Remember in Spanish at the end, we raise our voice slightly. So ¿qué hora es? So that we know it's a question. We remember our upside down question marks as well. We forget the accent over que. And we would answer that by saying es la una, that's the one and only time we say that, or son las dos, son las 2:30, y cuarto, y cinco, y menos 20, and all of those expressions we've looked at. So the next question to ask, if we want to ask at what time, if we were asking at what time do you go to the cinema, for example, we ask a qué hora, at what time, quite literally. Remember our upside down question marks for that? And the answer to that would be a la una, or a las dos, a las tres, a las cuatro, a las 3:30, etc., etc. Hopefully, you will certainly know the first part of that slide. If you're in any doubt, I think it would be a really good idea to write that in your books. So pause this video for 2 minutes whilst you complete that. Excellent, muy bien. Those two are really, really important questions, and how you start the sentence as well with the es and son, or a, la, or a las is really important as well. So we've revised our time questions. Let's remind ourselves of the verb ir, meaning to go. So you'll recall from last week, ir is one of the irregular verbs. It is also one of the verbs that we use every day, almost in so much speech, we use the verb to go. So it's just one of those that you have to remember. So pause this video, look at this table. It's the same one that was in our lesson last week. See if you can remember the conjugation. Pause, give yourself a minute to do that. I'll give you a clue, they all start with V's, which remember in Spanish we pronounce as B's. So pause and we'll have a look at that. Muy bien. So we've got here, I'll remind you, it was just to test your memory. Some of you might have wanted to challenge yourself. So we have boy, I go, vas, you go, va, he or she goes, vamos, we go, vais, you plural go, and van, they go. Okay, so pause this video and practice the pronunciation. If you want that all in one go, we've got boy, vas, va, vamos, vais, van. And just keep repeating it and repeating, and slowly, slowly it will start to go in. So pause this video whilst you do that. Muy bien. You should have an accurate record of that verb as well from a prior lesson. If you don't, please write it down now. Pause this video and do that, but I'm assuming most of you do have that. So now let's look at using ir in conjunction with time. Okay, and we'll do that with a writing task in a moment. So we can ask the question, ¿a qué hora vas al cine? So this is using the verb ir, and you'll notice the conjugation is in the second person, you. Now, I'm not too worried about you being able to form that right now, but I just need you to recognize it. So, ¿a qué hora vas al cine? What time do you go to the cinema? What time do you go to the cinema? So the answer with that is I go, which is the first person, voy. Voy al cine a las 5. So that's how you use the verb ir with time if you're sort of making plans, really, or talking about what you usually do. So let's practice that. I would like you to write answer to the questions in your books. So there are 3 questions there. ¿A qué hora vas a la piscina? What time do you go swimming? ¿A qué hora vas de compras? What time do you go shopping? ¿A qué hora vas a la playa? What time do you go to the beach? Okay, so some of this vocabulary we did last week when we're talking about free time activities. So refer back to that, because in our answers we need to give the first person of ir, boy, then give the activity and then say what time. So I've put the time there in English. I want you to put that in Spanish in your answers. Okay, so pause this video for about 3 minutes whilst you complete that. Excelente, muy bien. So let's see how you got on. Hopefully you got the answers. Voy a la piscina a las 10:30 de la mañana. I go swimming at 10:30 in the morning. Voy de compras a la 1:15 de la tarde. I go shopping at 1:15 in the afternoon. And the last one, voy a la playa a las 11 en punto. I go to the beach at 11 on the dot, or dead on 11, however you like to say that. Okay, so that's just hopefully giving you some practice of how we use ir with a time phrase. Okay, continuamos. So now we can also do that with other verbs. So let's look at having some practice at doing that now. So using other verbs with time. ¿A qué hora escuchas música? Now we know the verb escuchar is to listen, and in this sense it's conjugated in the second person. What time do you listen to music? Again, I'm not too worried at this point in time if you can't conjugate in the second person. As long as you can recognize it, that's good. So we'll answer this question with escucho música a las 11 de la mañana. So for example, I listen to music at 11 o'clock in the morning. Okay, so that's an example of how we can use this. So for our writing activity, which we'll do in a moment, I need you to remember, vamos a recordar, let's try and remember some of the activities that we spoke about in last week's lesson as regards free time. So we've got things here like veo la televisión, salgo con mis amigos, voy al cine, voy de compras, monto en bicicleta, voy a la piscina, and escucho música. This is just to jog your memory of some of the things, some of the free time activities, because we'll be using those in our writing. Vamos a escribir. So all of these questions here, ¿a qué hora?, all mean what time do you? And then we've got a verb conjugated in the to form, so asking you that question, and whatever activity it is. So your task is to write answers, including times, to all of those questions. Now I've put a verb word bank there to help you with the conjugation of the verb in the first person to give you sort of a bit of a starter, a bit of a help in some of the free time activities. You might also need to refer back to last week's lesson. So I've given you an example here. ¿A qué hora montas en bicicleta? What time do you go cycling, or do you go on a bike ride? Then you can give an answer. Monto en bicicleta a las 3:30 de la tarde. Okay. There's a challenge as well. Add a time phrase to your sentence. You remember last week we looked at time phrases. We did on Mondays, los lunes, at the weekend, los fines de semana, etc. So I would really like you to challenge yourself and use some time expressions, some frequent expressions of frequency with your answers. Okay, so really extend yourself to do that. So what you're doing, you'll be writing those 6 questions and answering those 6 questions in your books, exactly like I've shown you in the green box there in the example. I think you're going to need to give yourself about 8 minutes to complete that task. So please pause the video now whilst you do that. Muy bien. So this brought all of our learning together. This was quite a challenging task indeed, because as I said, it brought together everything that you have done pretty much over the last 2 weeks. So hopefully you got on okay with that. So these are some of the examples that you could have used. I've given various times, so you might have used different times. What I'm more interested in is you've got the conjugation right. Okay, so ¿a qué hora vas al cine? I've extended myself in every one of these answers by adding the expression of frequency. So I've said, los domingos voy al cine a las 7:30. What time do you go to the cinema? Is the question. Sundays, I go to the cinema at 7:30. So question number 2, ¿a qué hora escuchas música? What time do you listen to music? And the answer, escucho música todos los días a las 5:20. So I said you could vary the time or the time phrase, but as long as you've got the escucho música and then the a las, and give the time. Número 3. ¿A qué hora sales con tus amigos? What time do you go out with your friends? Salgo con mis amigos los sábados a las 11. I go out with my friends on Saturdays at 11 o'clock. This is all made up and that's absolutely fine. Número 4, ¿a qué hora vas de compras? What time do you go shopping? And the answer, voy de compras los viernes a las 8 de la noche. So I go shopping on Fridays at 8 o'clock at night time. I told you it's total mentira, all made up. Number 5, número 5, ¿a qué hora navegas por internet? And the answer, navego por internet todos los días a las 6:05. I navigate or I surf the internet every day at 5 to 6. And número 6, ¿a qué hora ves la televisión? Los jueves veo la tele a las 9:30. Okay, so lots involved in that. Well done if you've attempted that and managed to get at least the activity in the right person and the time phrase. That's bringing together all of our learning for the last couple of weeks. So that's quite that's quite involved. Muy bien. Okay, so finally ending with our plenary. So you can see, looking at our lesson aims for this week, we've understood how to give time. We've understood how to give time and learned the present tense of ir, meaning to go. We've applied all that vocabulary that we've learned by writing. And now I'd like you to evaluate your work and set targets on how to improve. So your first task is to write down what you've learned today. Second task is to set yourself a target for improvement. Your third thing to do is to take a photo of your work from today and upload it to Google Classroom for your teacher to review. Okay, so pause this video whilst you do all of that. Muy bien. Excelente. Well done, Year 7. That was a lot in that lesson, and over the course of this week, you've done really, really well, and I look forward to seeing you next week. Gracias y hasta luego.